it's all good. It's all good. It's good. And by the end of this session, we are going to understand the whole principle of mindful eating. We will learn about the practical strategies, what mindful eating is, how to teach that, and we will also think creatively on how to incorporate mindful eating in our practices if we are interested in this as diabetes educators. And I cannot click. I can't. A few words about me. I'm Evgeniya Evans. I'm a registered dietitian nutritionist, a certified diabetes care and education specialist, and I have a degree in positive psychology. So I'm a positive psychology practitioner in addition to my nutrition titles. I also work at Cook County Health Diabetes Endocrinology Clinic, where we are treating the most complex cases of diabetes. I am in Chicago. We are in Chicago. And during my during my grad school, I did a research on mindful eating and mindfulness for diabetes management. And I gained some information which I put into a real class, which I teach right now at our clinic. And today I'm going to share with you not only like theoretical findings of mindful eating, but also some practical applications and maybe a little bit of practical wisdom on how that lands with our population. A few words about our population of people. At Cook County Health in Chicago, we predominantly work with individuals with lower socioeconomic status. We see a lot of people with food insecurity, a lot of literacy barriers, a lot of socioeconomic stressors. So in addition to providing them with education on a healthier nutrition, healthier lifestyle for diabetes management, of course, we need to integrate and factor in the complexities of lives they have. We need to ensure cultural sensitivity, accessibility to resources, provide them with behavioral health support, etc. So that's where we are. Wish I could just make it. Okay. And before we dive into the actual concept of mindful eating, I would like to chat a little bit about diabetes and the main principles of diabetes management. I'm sure everyone here knows this, but just kind of to show you a broader picture, broad brush strokes, right? Large brush strokes before we go into nuances. So we all know that diabetes is a very complex, it's a chronic condition with a lot of serious complications if it is unmanaged. And we also know that it's incredibly prevalent, and based on the data from 2024, over 133 Americans have prediabetes or diabetes. So this is very alarming, and it makes us to be likely very interested in how to help our patients. And we also know that diabetes is a lifestyle condition. We know that we can do a lot with our lifestyle to help our patients to see some improvement. And there's at least 4 pillars per ADA, per standards of care, or just based on our practical experiences. That first, we need to learn about diabetes, what diabetes is, and all the diabetes-related self-care behaviors, taking your medications, picking up your medications at the pharmacy, checking your blood sugars and all that. We all know that. Physical activity, regular physical activity, mental health support, stress management, and then definitely balanced eating, which we call medical nutrition therapy, just generally improved diet, more nutrient-dense diets. So these 4 pillars are incredibly helpful for our patients. And as a dietitian, of course, before diving into the art of mindful eating, before we go into talk about nuances of how, I would love to discuss what we talk when we saying what to eat, because we have to provide some kind of foundational education on diabetes management. Some of my patients, they come and they in total denial that something needs to be changed. And of course, we need to provide them with at least some kind of framework of what nutritious diet is supposed to look like. And sometimes I feel like a broken record, but at our clinic, we are always using the most visual and simple resources, and the plate method to be one of them. I don't know if it is true based on your experience, but in my experience, plate is way to go. And intentionally, I put one in Spanish just because you don't even have to speak any language or be able to read in order to understand the main principle. It's all about focusing on the abundance of fiber-rich, nutrient-rich, vitamin-rich vegetables, plant foods, fiber-rich foods, and then making it the foundation of your meal, at least most of the time, and incorporate some lean proteins, some complex carbohydrates, maybe quarter and quarter, and definitely think about the flavor factor with healthy fats. And it's all about not prescribing exact foods or exact amounts, but more about showing that there is a way for you to customize it based on your cultural preferences, tolerances, and just individuality. So that's what we use in order to provide the understanding of what to eat before we dive into how to eat. And also I put a Harvard Health plate, which is very similar. They just emphasize a little bit more whole grains, but generally the idea is the same. Keep the balance on your plate, make sure you have an abundance of fiber-rich foods. And there is no way around it. We all need that for blood sugar balance and better blood sugar management. So we start with that, and then now we are also have to be thinking, in my practical experience, we also have to be thinking about the bigger context. Diabetes never comes in a vacuum. It's always in some kind of context, mental health state. And sadly, we know that individuals with diabetes have higher rates of depression, higher rates of anxiety. They have a unique condition which called diabetes distress, which is very prevalent. Sometimes it's undiagnosed or unscreened, but it's very prevalent. I work a lot with type 1 diabetes individuals, and oh my goodness, it's quite frequent thing to see. And we also know that eating behaviors, like disordered eating behaviors or even eating disorders, are more prevalent in individuals with diabetes, type 2 specifically. Binge eating disorder is quite a prevalent one to see. So taking it all into consideration, we cannot be just prescriptive with, hey, here's the perfect lifestyle you need to follow and you'll be better. We have to take the whole health, whole human into consideration and see how we can support them with building something sustainable, something they can maintain long term rather than treat it as a quick fix, short diet, because diabetes is not about that. You cannot really forget about it in a month, right, once you're controlled. Sadly, we see how from A1C 5.5 or 6, they go back to 14 in like a matter of 3 months. So that can happen. That is why consistency is more important. That's how, after working for a couple of years at endocrinology clinic, I landed at mindfulness, because I was searching for some additional tools and resources I can provide in addition to MNT, in addition to all this education. So yes, we are ready to move to mindfulness now, and let's start with a broader definition, what mindfulness is. At this point of life, I'm pretty sure everyone is familiar, because almost every title of a magazine screams at us, mindfulness, let's be more mindful, do you practice mindfulness? And actually, there is nothing too complicated about it. It's a very old concept coming from Zen Buddhism, and it's pretty much a practice of purposefully focusing attention on present moment in a non-judgmental and accepting manner. I feel like it's a perfect follow-up. My session is a perfect follow-up of the previous session because our speaker was talking about mindfulness and was inviting you to be in the moment and experience the moment being in that meditative practice. So yes, it's just a present moment, non-judgmental, accepting manner. Some practitioners saying that there should be also a love and kindness present, but non-judgmental is already enough. And why it is beneficial? It enhances awareness, emotional regulation, and improves decision making. So if mindfulness is this, what is mindful eating then? And it's pretty much the same things applied to your practice of eating. It's basically focusing intentionally on your food, staying non-judgmental, being in the present moment, and it is process-driven rather than outcome-oriented. It reconnects people with themselves, with their internal cues like hunger, satiety, emotional states, and deepening the connection with oneself, rebuilding trust. So, and of course, as a healthcare professionals here, we like to put our dietitian's hats on or scientist hats on and say, okay, that all sounds perfect. What does the evidence say? Is it for real? Are there any randomized controlled trials? Yes, that's pretty much what I did for my master's degree. I looked at the literature, and I found that first, it's still quite a new topic in nutrition, mindful eating, and most of the mindful eating interventions are done under the umbrella of broader mindfulness-based interventions. There are a few of them I mentioned on the slide. It's MB-EAT, ACT, DBT, but those are all details you probably don't need. The most important thing is mindfulness-based interventions shown to reduce maladaptive eating behaviors, improve weight outcomes, and diabetes-specific outcomes, and generally enhance well-being when it's measured as a subjective well-being. I have a big literature list at the end, so if you're interested in any of the studies, you can find them or you can contact me and I'll point you to the right direction. So, since we are focused on, so here is the summary of the main benefits of mindful eating. It can aid with weight management. It's not necessarily more superior for weight loss, but it is as effective as traditional behavioral approaches. It can be as effective. It does help with some disordered eating patterns. Specifically, it can interrupt automatic eating. If you practice regularly, it reduces binge eating disorder, which is very beneficial for our patients with type 2. It provides some glycemic benefits, and we will talk about it. And in general, it provides a little bit more ease and positivity around nutrition, encourages more flexible and enjoyable approach to eating, cooking, experiencing food. Yes, that's kind of what's my main focus. I was looking for something like that. And just briefly, we will take a look at a couple of studies done by Miller and colleagues who specifically looked at the individuals with diabetes. They compared two groups of people. One was presented with just MNT, and another one was presented with brief foundation of MNT with a focus on mindful eating. And both groups showed significant reduction in A1C, decreased high glycemic food consumption, and were found equally effective as approaches, so which is great. So both the key takeaways here are both approaches can be used. Mindful eating is not superior in any way, but it can be effective tool in your toolbox, specifically for individuals who are struggling with another diet or any rigidity, maybe have a history of eating disorder or history of chronic dieting, something like that. So you may see that they just do not really are not really aligned organically with MNT recommendations. So maybe we need to shift towards mindful eating more and create a little bit more ease, peace around nutrition. And that's how we can see improvement in the dietary pattern. Okay, and now let's close the chapter 1 and move on to chapter 2, where we are actually going to finally talk about what is mindful eating. It all sounds very theoretical, but show me the how, show me the strategies. And in the literature, I found 4 main strategies. Of course, possibly more strategies exist. They are just most prevalent, most easy to teach, easy to understand, which I focus on in my particular classes. So, strategy number 1, engaging the senses. Strategy number 2, redesigning the eating environment. Number 3, cultivating awareness of internal cues. And number 4, craving acceptance and work with the food thoughts. And now let's dive into each one of it and just see how it actually being taught in my classes, and maybe it will help you understand what it's like. So basically, engaging the senses is all about immersion in the sensory experience of eating. I typically like to chat with my patients during the classes and ask them, okay, how many senses do we have? And they start in a playful way, oh, I can hear, I can see, I can smell. Okay, we have 5 senses. How many of you experience your food with all 5 senses? And then people start thinking that like, I rarely listen to my food, or like, I just rarely do anything beyond just looking and tasting. And then I ask them what can help them to use more senses. Well, slowing down, chewing more, expressing gratitude before meals, so you focused on your food a little bit more. And then I just, instead of 1,000 words, I invite them to do it in a practical way, and we engage in an exercise. And of course, I didn't create the exercise, I just borrowed it from John Kabat-Zinn. It's a golden standard exercise called the raising exercise, where we are just eating slowly a small amount of food together, and we are reflecting on that experience. I typically use a raisin or a blueberry or a grape. You can use anything which is easy to carry and not a big allergen. So the beautiful part is, I'm not going to read through all of this, but the main thing is you just show up and you present, in a very open-minded manner. You imagine that you were dropped on this planet with no prior to Earth experiences, so you don't even know what piece of food like you have, what it is, and you just start examining like with childlike curiosity. And you hold that piece of food, you look closely, you smell, you touch the texture, you taste, you chew, you swallow, and then you reflect. And it takes us 2 to 4 minutes, depends on the group, and it creates some aha moments. Some people release fears around eating certain foods they enjoy because it clicks that if you really truly taste something and slowing down and trying to enjoy, you may not need as much, especially if it's a treat, when it's not driven by like natural hunger, when you just need to eat. But even when you are guided by natural hunger, you can still slow down and do it in a more respectful manner to your body. So I really like just to see how they feel after. Not everyone has a hot experience, but some people do. And that makes me smile. So strategy number 2, internal cue awareness. This is usually easier to demonstrate rather than explain. So basically, I move on right away to the hunger and satiety scale. I invite my patients to think about this little tool, which we all have inside of us, and explore the extreme parts of it. What is the true starvation feel like? How does the absolute fullness feel? And we kind of start reflecting how it feels, how uncomfortable it may be, what environments are bringing us to those states. I hear a lot about Thanksgiving. I hear a lot about childhood. It's interesting. It's interesting. It connects you to your patient a lot. And then we just quickly land at the realization that where is my golden middle? What is that sweet middle? And it's about 5 to 6, right? When I'm in a cruise mode, when I feel good, then I can function. I don't have to think about food. And then my logical question is, so do we really have to go to extremes to start eating or stop eating? And any individual with any level of literacy will say, well, not really. I probably need to start when I'm just, slightly light and kind of ready for a snack, or like just hungry, lightly hungry. And I can stop when I just comfortably full, not overly full or full to the sickness. And They tell me about it, and then I just remind them that consistency matters, and I invite them to practice it with their meals, maybe once a day, maybe twice per day, maybe all the time for a week, maybe every time they engage in eating, and then see how it goes, how it can be transformational for some people, especially for those who are used to having a plan and being fully disconnected to the body. I also invite my patients always teach their loved ones something they've learned so it can get integrated into their brains and memories better. So that's also interesting to hear about on the follow-up sessions. So that was the strategy number 2. And now we have strategy number 3, which is super simple one. We just discuss how much environment actually matters. We all know that if we are, for the break, being introduced to like some beautifully cut vegetables, fresh food, we will likely eat that, right? Rather than if we only had some processed snacks, candy bars and chips, nothing real available, we will likely snack on that. So as simple as this. I'm very grateful for everything which is provided. Thank you so much to the organizers. So what I'm saying is we just, in a conversational manner, we just reflect what environments set you up for success and what environments are not, and how we can make small improvements. I encourage them to think about children, like when they're running around and they see a big bowl of, cookies and pretzels. Nothing is wrong with cookies and pretzels, but what will happen if they have a bowl of fruit on the table, or a clean table, or water rather than soda, right? So it doesn't always have to be more expensive alternative. It can be just a different thing. And that's how we kind of land to the ideas of how we can redesign our environments, how we can set us up for success and align it with our long-term health goals. We're removing distractions, we addressing the triggers. For different people, different things can be triggering. And then we also think, okay, but what do we replace them with? What good stuff we want to bring? And it's usually super easy to understand and quite potent. And the final strategy which I introduce is a craving acceptance. I don't really do it during my class, just because it's usually very individualized. I typically talk about it if I'm asked about cravings, or maybe during individual appointments, because not every craving is something to like act on. Sometimes there could be, imbalance, biochemical imbalance, and we're just missing some nutrients. Your body is craving something because of the deficiency. And then also maybe it's a negative talking. Like, I really need to see the whole context before I say, hey, it's absolutely craving, we absolutely have to work with it, and you have to run away from it. No, sometimes it's more complex. We all probably know that. But if it is a craving, and if it is maybe habit-driven or something like that, I'm human, I know how it feels. I go metaphorical. Serve the urge when I talk about the wave of an ocean, where we just learning to acknowledge the craving, and then we also remind ourselves that it's exactly like a wave of an ocean. It is coming, it is peaking, and it will subside. And once you start practicing it, not from the first time, but from maybe fifth time, it will become easier to just let it pass once you have intention. For some people, the ocean is not their cup of tea, so we go into leaves on the river. We imagine in the river, we imagine in the beautiful fall leaves falling on that stream, and then we also know that as a natural, event, they will come, they will pass us slowly. The same with the craving. It is coming. I see you. And I know that you will pass if I just stay with discomfort for a little bit. So it works. Again, it really requires intention and interest. And for me, as a healthcare practitioner, most important part is it a true craving? Why do you want to work with it? Will it be beneficial for us, or it's something which can be potentially harmful? But we can talk about it more and more. It all really depends on the case. So this is not strategy for a class, I would say, but it's one of the strategies. And I think that it will be beneficial for you to know about it. And we can also talk about redirecting our thoughts on some of our cravings, or like strong desire to eat something right now, like that impulse can be really more emotional. And sometimes it's really important to ask, what am I truly hungry for? Am I hungry for some hug, for maybe quiet time, for rest, for, it's different for everyone, but I frequently notice that when I need that like piece of chocolate right now, I honestly really need to just go to bed because I will eat that piece of chocolate, and for 90 more minutes, I can type more and work more, and sometimes I'm like, you know what? You don't really, it's not that. But I've learned it over the years by noticing and acknowledging. And not everyone is that introspective and wants to do all this work, but generally it is really, really helpful to maintain this self-talk and be very curious and non-judgmental. Instead of saying, oh, you're so weak, why do you want this? Just saying, like a true friend, what do you truly need now? Do you need hug? Do you need rest? Do you need, bath? So those were the 4 strategies. And now, just to wrap it up for my patients, I always bring them back to the consistency. I love the quote, which is presented here. I'm not fully healed. I'm not fully wise. I'm still on my way. What matters most is that I'm moving forward. Just coming back, starting over and over, will straighten the muscle of mindfulness, like with everything else in lifestyle. So I remind my patients that, and I never mention perfection. Practice makes it better. Just trust your body, have a good intention, and just move forward. And right now, I'm ready to transition from this chapter 2 to chapter 3, where I just want to share a few ideas on how we can integrate it in the class format. Because I do it as a class format, I don't need any better. I don't know any better. So please just follow me, and maybe you will find it helpful if you want to integrate it more like a group coaching experience, or maybe you want. Maybe you teach in classes on a different topic and you can tell me what else I can enhance. So, number one, again, when we bring mindful eating into diabetes education, we are not putting mindful eating as a superior concept. It's an addition. For first, I think about MNT as a strong foundation, which we definitely need to discuss with every patient, just to let them understand that simple principle of plate most of the time, the benefits of fiber-rich foods, the benefits of proteins, the benefits of complex carbs and fats and all that, and the importance of like 80-20 rule or something like that, that perfect doesn't exist, that you should be striving to do like better most of the time, but you have room for a little bit of fun. And then when they start practicing it and improving, like removing their sodas or whatever they were doing, maybe which was not working for them, then we can talk about more flexible approaches and more intuitive approaches like mindful eating. So that's kind of my main thing, number one, that definitely go with education first, MNT education, and then we add it as a more flexible framework. We are definitely not talking about restricting food with mindful eating, and don't introduce it as another diet approach. We are just saying that it's a way to reconnect with your body, improve self-awareness, regulation, and just foster positive relationships. And you don't even have to mention to them, like, right now, I'm going to teach you on a mindful eating. Not really. You can just sneak in some ideas. Hey, let's explore a hunger and fullness scale. Have you thought about it? Oh, so there is a tool, imagine, Or have you tried to eat a small piece of your favorite cake or whatever in this manner? And then just briefly explain the steps of raising exercise. Very malleable. You can be very creative, and you don't have to label all these big theoretical ideas. Most important things are that when we are integrating all of this in a group work, I've learned that with adults, it's really important to keep it discussion-based. Like lecture style like this is likely very boring and not too engaging, but when I have time to interact and ask about your experiences and treat every patient as an expert on their own body, on their own life, and show them that everyone matters, everyone's story matters, because it truly does. We just sometimes don't have enough time. That clicks better, because you really need to bring a certain level of vulnerability in order to engage and trust, especially when we are talking about nutrition, such an intimate topic for many people. Because, food is not only nourishment, right? It's way more complex. There's emotional component in enjoyment and traumas in history and everything. So, yes, definitely very respectful, discussion-based environment, reliable examples. Whoever your audience is, think about examples which will click with them, and also lots of visual and sensory engagement. I like to print it in color from my, I'm on the second floor. I go to the floor 8 where we have executive offices, and I print it there just because they have printers in color. Because I know my patients will really appreciate pictures in color. Yeah, they may be like 50, 60, 70 years old sometimes, but they still like pretty pictures. So yes, that, maybe different languages if you work with a very diverse population. And then, definitely incorporate some experiences, practical experiences, like eating that piece of food, doing the tool with hunger and satiety, Showing is always, always best than just explaining it in words. And then beyond just mindful eating, I always remind them about mindfulness in general and saying, hey, you don't really have to be only eating mindfully. You can be mindful listener, mindful speaker. You can be mindful gardener. You can practice yoga and even do mindful walks. And because it all will straighten your muscle of mindfulness, right? It will be more and more natural for you to sit down for like 20 or 30 minutes and eat your meal without distraction if you are used to on focusing on the present moment and do not treat it as a waste of your time. And last little pearl of wisdom, which I can share, is that make it optional for your patients to practice it. One time I was so excited to start the exercise on eating, raising, I think, and one patient described that experience as like the worst in her life, or it was something really, really bad, and I'm like, oh, how so? What did I do? And she's like, I live in chronic pain, and you didn't even ask me if it's comfortable for me, like you just assumed that all. I felt that I made such a huge mistake, and every time now, before I invite my patients, let's all mindfully eat a berry, I definitely let you decide if you want to do that or not. You can leave the room, you can just sit and observe, whatever makes you comfortable. What we love to say in our clinic is, you do you. And that's what matters here for us. Key takeaways and future directions. Mindful eating provides a sustainable, compassionate way to manage diabetes, moving past strict dietary plans. The key benefits are long-term healthful eating, better alignment with long-term healthy eating. It reduces emotional stress related to eating, improves overall dietary patterns, support weight management, and generally lower stress around food. And if you are one of those health practitioners who are interested in integrating mindfulness into your practice, I would always use patient-centered approach, where you are looking at the patient holistically, because not every patient by default will benefit from it. For some patient it may click, for others it may not, so you don't really have to be introducing it to everyone. It's just a tool in your toolbox. Patient-centered approach. And then always move on to simple, practical strategies rather than explanation. There is a new concept in the literature. No one needs that. They just need to know how to do better tomorrow and how to see better result in 3 months of their A1C or whatever they're working on. Or maybe feel less stress about just managing their diabetes and nutrition specifically. And lastly, as a healthcare practitioner, never stop learning. That is why I have an amazing group here. I'm sure you all traveled so far, or maybe not that far. To me, 7-hour flight was very long travel time. What I'm saying is just embrace learning opportunities, and there are fabulous trainings available on mindfulness, mindful-based eating. So just explore it. Most of them are not very expensive. Some of them are even free. So please embrace that and become another expert, and let's cross-pollinate, because I think this is something very, very promising for us and our patients. And right now I'm done with my concept, with my information. I'm open for your questions, for your comments, for your feedback. I have some ideas for you to reflect on. I'll be happy to hear your thoughts. And please, let's stay in touch. My name is Evgeniya Evans. I'm from Chicago. One more time, find me on LinkedIn. Let's be friends, and let's keep the needle moving forward in this direction. Thank you so much.
We probably do have time for one question, if anyone has any. I was thinking about how you said mindfulness is everywhere. I've been into like some different college athletic complexes and things, and one of the things I just thought mindfulness really is everywhere, and this is how they teach it to college athletes. They had some language around like be where your feet are, like encouraging them to be present. So mindfulness really is everywhere. Any questions? All right. Well, thank you very much. I hope you'll be around for the rest of the day if anyone has questions.
Of course.
So feel free to reach out. One more round of applause if you guys would.
Thank you.